What is going on, everyone? Boylon here for another Marvel Strike Force video, and today we're going to be talking about Doom War Chapter 2. Yes, we recently received word via in-game mail of the requirements for this, which will be coming out next patch, and is going to include the farmability of Squirrel Girl and Proxima Midnight, and what I like to call Wave 2 of the Tier 14 mini-uniques. And we'll have to see exactly which ones on patch day, which I think is actually going to be on Tuesday, or at least as of filming this. There hasn't been an exact date, but that is my expectation. So this video is going to be a guide video on Doom War Chapter 2 and the characters that I think are going to be best used for this campaign and each of its segments. Also, will be doing this in my PowerPoint style, which I have used in the past in a couple of my guides so far, and I will be off green screen for this so I don't get in the way of the text. But without further ado, let's get it started. Alright, and here we are at the start of the PowerPoint here, and just a few things to go over before we get started. So this unlocks, Doom War Chapter 2, unlocks after completing Doom War Chapter 1, which prior to that requires the completion of Nexus Chapter 8, if you're not quite at this point yet, which again requires at a minimum of level 70 plus to unlock the previous campaign chapters. As far as I'm aware, there is no level 75 requirement on Doom War, but please let me know if I'm mistaken and I'll correct that part. Just like previous endgame campaign chapters, which started from Heroes Chapter 7, this one does have trait-based node requirements in 3 node segments as well, which we'll be covering. This will start off by unlocking Squirrel Girl and Proxima Midnight, which by the recording of this video, I can only guesstimate where I think that they might actually be in the chapter, but I'll be sure to make corrections to this document when the patch actually goes live for more clarity. And this PowerPoint will be made available online in the description below for those that are interested in taking a look at it afterwards as well. On top of the farmability of these two characters, we will also be getting the second wave of Gear 14 or Tier 14 mini-uniques. Fingers crossed on some biomolecular scans, because I could definitely use more of those. And also, of course, on top of this, there will be additional purple and orange regular gear on these nodes as well, I would expect. I also do want to point out while I'm here that I don't actually have a guide for Doom War Chapter 1, but for those who are still struggling to get through that, I will actually be going back and doing a guide similar to this on Doom War Chapter 1 as well. I'll be going back and doing that, so for those who are still a little bit behind. Okay, and so here we have the Doom War Chapter 2-1 to 2-3 segment, and now this is the AIM, Mercenary, and Wakandan segment, so you can only use these characters, nobody else doing these first 3 nodes. Now, just to reiterate, you do need to clear Doom War Chapter 1 to unlock Doom War Chapter 2, and I'm kind of guessing this might be the place where you might unlock Squirrel Girl at 2-3. Reason why I say that is because if you look ahead to Doom War 2-4 to 2-6, I think that these are probably the harder requirements in my opinion, and so the 2-4 to 2-6 as we get to will be quite significantly easier, and you know, maybe I'm wrong and I'll fix this later on if I am, but I think that we might see Squirrel Girl here. So, the first option for this, in my opinion, is the full AIM team. Now, if you have this available because they were used in Villains Chapter 7, the 7-1 to 7-3 segment, if I'm not mistaken, you might already have some of these characters leveled up from that. Now, it's kind of hard to tell. We don't know at this point yet how difficult the nodes are going to be. If we kind of extrapolate from Doom War Chapter 1, then you might, most of the enemies I think were in the 50 to 60k range. So in terms of team power, you might be looking at, for AIM, possibly in the 250k range. They do have some sustainability through Scientist Supreme and potentially AIM Researcher if you're using them, although I don't. And so that might make it easier to get through this. So my first option here is the full AIM team, Scientist Supreme and Graviton at a bare minimum with your 3 favorite AIM minions. Now, do not use AIM Infector, whatever you do. I mentioned this in previous videos about AIM. Please do not use AIM Infector. He is trash. Now, I typically use AIM Security, Monstrosity, and Assaulter, but if you need more healing, please do take AIM Researcher, and that might lower the requirements that you might need for the team power. I don't know. We'll have to see as we actually do the levels, but that's my recommendation there. Option 2 is taking Scientist Supreme, Graviton, AIM Security, and fill in with 2 other characters. Now that's going to come from the Mercenaries and Wakandan section. So possible fill-ins if you don't have all of these characters available. Shuri, definitely strongly recommended here. Now she is a legendary character, but I would hope that if you're at this point in doing Doom War Chapter 2 and even Doom War Chapter 1 really, you probably have Shuri unlocked at this point. And if you don't, you really should go and get her. Killmonger is also another possibility. He is farmable. He has drained, so he can sort of keep himself alive a little bit longer. Taskmaster, another unfortunately unfarmable character at this point in time, but he is a very strong character, and you might have him leveled due to how powerful the mercs are in war defense. And then Deadpool, while he is a mercenary, and he can heal from negative stats effects. So if you have Scientist Supreme and using her, and she's going to apply negative stats effects to anyone that's not AIM, Deadpool will heal via that as well. So that has some sustainability for him if you're using in combination with Scientist Supreme. Now, if you do have a really beefy, powerful Merc War defense team, you could consider using Merc Lieutenant and Merc Riot Guard. But honestly, I think that'll be, sort of down the line. If you really have nothing of the others that I mentioned, then you can consider them. I don't know. Merc Lieutenant has a little bit of healing on his passive, but it's nowhere the same as their war defense bonuses, so it's not going to be as great. So I would recommend the option 1, the full AIM team, but obviously if you can't, there's some other choices here for you guys. And so moving on to Doom War Chapter 2.4 to 2.6, I think this is personally quite a bit easier with a weird one here. So it is Hand. Now we're going to talk about the bottom, or if you want to look ahead, Marauders and Spider-Verse characters only. So option 1, all symbiotes. Now this is especially on the back of patch 4.4, which was included Scream and Anti-Venom. Unfortunately, a lot of these are classed as unfarmable to me. Symbiote Spider-Man, Carnage and Venom, who are farmable, Scream and Anti-Venom, who are new and currently are not. Quite possibly the best combination of characters for these nodes, I think. This is going to have the easiest time. They have lots of sustain, their damage is great, they're amazing. Best possible team probably for any campaign, so this is a bit surprising that they allowed that. Now, option 2, if you don't have this, or if you're watching this down the line, obviously farmability will change in the future, so depending on when you're watching this video. Option 2 includes the Marauders plus a fill-in. Now, Emma Frost is not actually tagged as a Marauder, so you can't actually use her here. So you would have to at least use Mr. Sinister and Strife, in my opinion. You could also use Sabretooth and Mystique, although Sinister and Strife definitely for sure, and then fill-in characters where needed. Now, the best fill-in characters also include Dr. Octopus, who again is unfarmable, but he is a legendary Spider-Verse character, and he has a lot of good support abilities. And then really after that, I would just fill it with as many symbiotes as you possibly can. If you have symbiotes, Spider-Man, Carnage, and Venom, use them. If you have Carnage and Venom, you could probably still use them as well. Depends on what you have available, but honestly, you could do a mix of Marauders and symbiotes if you don't have all 5 of them, but definitely use the strongest ones that you have available. If you don't have any of these still, you could use Rhino or Mysterio maybe if you're missing a tank or a controller. I put this in here because people who have highly leveled Sinister 6 possibly could utilize those, either because they were leveling up Dr. Octopus and things like that, or from Villains Chapter 7, a Sinister 6 was also a possibility there. So if you have them leveled up, you could potentially fill them in here. And I said option 10, Hand. I don't know if we're getting a Hand rework sometime soon, but I'm leaving this here because right now I don't know anyone who is possibly going to be using a Hand character for this, but I just wanted to throw that out there that they are an option, but quite possibly the worst and most painful option. I think that you're gonna have to work really hard for this, and I don't even know if it will be possible, but I had to mention it because it's an option apparently. So to me, that kind of makes it sound like there might be a Hand rework down the line, and maybe they're kind of thinking ahead on this, but as of this moment and as of the recording of this video, that remains to be seen. So let's move on to Doom War 2.7 to 2.9. To me, this is likely the Proxima Midnight unlock segment in my opinion, and this includes the use of Black Order characters, Hydra, and Power Armor characters. So, option 1 obviously is going to be the Black Order, and that, just like the Marauders, this includes 4 characters, and you can't use Thanos because Thanos, as of this video anyways, is not tagged as a Black Order member. So you're going to get Ebony Maw, who is an unfarmable legendary character, Proxima Midnight, which is ironic because it might be Proxima Midnight unlocking a Proxima Midnight node, kind of like Villains 7, Villains Chapter 7 unlocking Hela, and then of course you've got Corvus Glaive and Cull Obsidian, who as of this video as well is not farmable, and plus you would have to use a fill-in character. This really is the best option where possible, as most endgame players probably have Black Order gear to one extent or another. Personally, I have like a full slate of Black Order at tier 14. I imagine other people who have made their way through Dark Dimension 3 are probably also working on this as well, and so I don't expect it to be be overly difficult, but, you know, we might, we'll see, as always. Possible fill-ins, though, if you don't have all of these characters. Now, Baron Zemo, another great character. He's a great standalone character, and he does a lot of cool things. So he has amazing AoE through his passive and his ability block that he can provide, and actually slow. I forgot to mention that on the thing here. I'll edit that later. And even more, you know, if there's minions on the node, then he completely demolishes them. So I think that Baron Zemo is probably your best 5th choice if you have him available to you. I have him at gear tier 14, so he's going to be my 5th choice. Now, if you don't have him, Red Skull, another, unfortunately, unfarmable as of this video choice. He summons minions and gives offense up to others via his ultimate, and he increases speed bar as well in his special, which I forgot to mention, alongside the minions. Another good choice for sort of meat bags if you need the summons that might help you get through and take less damage on your overall team. Falcon. Now, he's probably the best member of the power armor for the purposes of campaigns. He's the best utility choice there for speed bar gain with his special, which has a very low cooldown, and honestly, probably a good choice if you do have power armor leveled up. Unfortunately, beyond that, these are the best choices. Then, you know, and Baron Zemo and Red Skull are unfarmable as of this video. The rest of the Hydra and power armor team are mediocre at best. I honestly cannot recommend characters like Winter Soldier, Crossbones, any of the other Hydra minions. You could, if you have a really, really beefy Red Skull Hydra team, you could go that way. Obviously, though, Red Skull's charges will still happen, so the minions will still revive. However, Red Skull will be vulnerable and he will take damage. So this isn't like War Defense where he takes 0 damage. So you have to keep that in mind if you are going the Red Skull route. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily the best one. And the rest of the power armor team, other than Falcon, don't know if I could really recommend them either unless you have a really high 400k plus team. They don't really have any sustainability, so I think there's going to be some struggle there. And so that ends Do More Chapter 2, but there are some final tips and suggestions that I want to give you guys. So with ISOs available, consider class changing to healer, even if they're just at level 1, for all characters that you're using in the campaign, unless you have better than this. The extra sustain that you might get from the minor regenerations from the healer class, that might help you get through the level without dying, because obviously if you lose one person, you don't 3-star it, and for the nodes where that's really important, probably the important mini uniques and obviously the shard farming ones, that's going to be important. So consider just swapping everyone to healer ISO level 1 unless you have a stronger healer class, and you know, those minor regenerations on beefy characters will probably give you the regeneration that you need to get through it. Now, when preparing for each of these sections, try to maximize your power on the better characters and less on the crappier ones. That being said, there isn't a lot of crappy characters in these sections, but you obviously want to put more resources into the best ones so you're getting more bang for your buck in this case. Maximize your resources by only putting in what you need into each character and testing it if you can clear it or not first. So this is kind of what I do for other chapters as well, is just sort of trying it incrementally and see what I need to do in order to get it cleared. For some of the segments you might want to, especially the aim and things like that, you might not want to level them up more than you necessarily have to. So try to do this approach and see if that helps you get through each of the nodes, and then just put in the resources as required that way. Try to gear only the characters who most likely have longer term purpose, and this kind of goes back to what I just said previously. You don't want to waste too much gear and resources on others unless it's completely necessary. The more meta the character, the less team power that you probably will need. So when it comes to your choices, I did put out the recommendations, the sort of first and second choice in other fill-ins. I would definitely try to follow those recommendations, as those are probably the characters that you'll see more use of later down the line, versus the ones that I didn't mention, which I didn't feel were necessary or probably have a wider impact in the game. So I hope some of these tips help you getting through Do More Chapter 2 when it comes out in patch 4.5. And of course, if you guys found this information helpful, please smash that like button down below and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And of course, until next time guys, stay safe and I'll see y'all later. Boylon signing out.